to a Hello Vimbo, where I talk about all the things. I am here to equip you with the tools that you need to practice everyday self-care and wellness. And boy, are we getting into what actually self-care is today, because let me tell you, there's a lot out there that is not self-care. So let's talk through that. But first, we are going to start with a segment I like to call You Glow Girl, where I focus on a celebrity or well-known figure's self-care practice and how we can learn from it. The great thing about this segment is that all of the tips and tools that I share from these celebrities are things you can do for free or virtually free. Self-care is for everyone, even if you're a little broke. That's okay. Self-care is for you too. So I'm super excited for today's because it just energizes me to know that we can bust some of these myths that surround what self-care truly is. First, let's start with You Glow Girl. And today's celebrity is none other than my favorite, Oprah Winfrey. I can't even speak enough about how much she has made an impact on my life, but that's for another day. That's for another conversation. Today we're talking about her self-care practice, which is that Oprah, the Oprah, makes a point almost every week to take a day off. Can you believe it? It's Oprah. She is a billionaire with a B. And she has all the money and all the things and is running a studio and a network and on all of these different projects, and yet she, as much as she can, she has said in interviews that she tries to take off one day a week. Every Sunday, she just takes time to recenter and to refocus and to give herself a break. And she's even said in some interviews that she'll notice the weeks that she doesn't take a day off because she's a little bit more short. She doesn't have as much peace as she's making decisions. She just feels hurried. And so if Oprah, our Oprah, can take a day off, don't you think you can too? I really resonate with this one because I've grown up in a faith tradition where we take a day a week and we rest. We literally don't do anything. Growing up, don't do anything. That's a little rough. But we replace the normal, busy, hurried things that we do with fun, fulfilling, family-centered, restful activities. And so, yes, we go to church and we hang out together. But also, growing up, I remember Saturdays used to be a day when we would have our family meals together, and we would have cousins and aunts and uncles over, and we would make music in our, backyard or in the living room. Guitars would be out, we'd sing together. It's just a really good time that is not a hurried day. You're not worried about going out and buying groceries, and you're not worried about studying for a test or going into the office. We just chilled. And that's a really beautiful concept. I believe that is a major part of self-care. So I want to jump right into today's topic, which is self-care a scam? And I love this because this has already come up. As I started talking on these topics, I've had a few people reach out to me and say, wow, self-care is such a buzzword. There are influencers on influencers out here talking about self-care. Is it a scam? Is it really something that I need to be concerned about? Or is it just the latest trend in, trying to scam people for their money and convince them that they need something they don't? So I asked my Apple Watch a few seconds ago what self-care is. Hey Siri, what is self-care?
Self-care is what people do for themselves to establish and maintain health, and to prevent and deal with illness.
So self-care is what people do for themselves to establish and maintain health and prevent and deal with illness. So self-care is a real thing, definitely probably overused, but with that working definition, people do this to establish, maintain health, and prevent illness. You may be asking yourself, what does a face mask have to do with self-care? What does a bubble bath have to do with self-care? My friend, let's get into what self-care is and maybe a little bit of what it isn't. Because I think part of defining what something is also giving non-examples. So, self-care technically speaking, is anything you do to maintain your health. In recent years, there has been a large emphasis on self-care for mental and emotional health. Obviously, the world has gone through some pretty rough years in the last few years that have upended a lot of what people were anchoring their mental health in, which is job stability, being able to take your kids to school every day. All of those things have really disrupted the way we live. And now, even as things are kind of coming back to normal, whatever that is, people still find themselves concerned with maintaining their mental health, preserving their mental health. At the same time, it seems like people are busier now more than ever. And all of these factors combined have added to a bigger emphasis on self-care. Now that we've defined what self-care is, I am just going to share a little bit of my own personal experience to show what I believe is self-care and some things that are non-examples that in the past I've called self-care that really, they're not really self-care. They're just me doing my thing. So I have often in my last decade of working as an educator encountered jobs or situations that have really required a lot out of me. It may be hours of working, it may be mental energy, it may be difficult situations with humans. Working in education, we often have difficult situations with humans, particularly being a school administrator and having to oversee the operations of an entire student body and entire staff. That's not a small thing. In my situation, self-care would be me taking care of my mental health and my physical health and all of those different things in a way that allows me to be healthy, in a way that allows me to really focus on caring for myself so I can care for those around me. And so what self-care has looked like in good seasons is me getting enough sleep. Like when I don't sleep, I'm a terror. I am a horrible human being. I am the worst version of myself when I am under 5 hours of sleep consistently. That's just a fact. That's my self-care for me. So sleep is where it starts, because when I'm well rested, that leads to me being able to make better choices about food. When I am sleepy, I just eat all the things. And this is not about a particular diet or, throwing away all these bad foods. No, it's about eating things and being drawn to things that actually nourish me versus me just saying, oh, I want something salty or I want something sweet. It's about thinking about my choices and also thinking ahead. So self-care for me looks like me resting enough and being in a good enough space, mental thought process to make the decisions that will nourish my body. And those may be physical nourishment as far as food. That also includes what I put into my mind. When I am taking care of myself, when I am allowing myself to just have time to lie down or sit down and breathe, not always rushing one thing to another, I give myself the space to choose things that I enjoy. I give myself the space to choose things that spark my creativity. Personally, I love reading books. That's what self-care looks like to me. I know I am in a good space when I have the ability to read a book during the week. It may not be every day. It may not be, oh, I've got to read a chapter or 5 chapters tonight. But just when I make the space to do these things, that's what self-care looks like to me. Now, I've kind of mentioned some different activities, but in order to create the space for self-care, this is a really crucial thing we must realize. In order to have the capacity and the ability to care for oneself, you actually have to say no to some things. I've been in different seasons in my life. As I mentioned, I've been a school administrator, and there are times when it is not possible for me to both take care of myself as well as commit to another position, whether it's a ministry position in church, whether it's a volunteer position with a nonprofit, whether it's something that's really near and dear to my heart. I just literally don't have enough hours in the day to give to this other thing and also take care of myself. I was in a very different situation this last year. I took a break from administration and it actually worked out really beautifully. I was still able to work out of school in early childhood with little ones, and I had such a joyful time. And because in that space I was only working part-time, I was able to, in that season, have time for self-care all of my afternoon, and at the same time I could commit to planning some fun events for women in our community. We had a tea party, we had a paint event. That was something I enjoy doing, and I have the time to do it right now because my job wasn't consuming as much time out of my life. But there have been other seasons in my life where, because I prioritize self-care, I was able to focus on nourishing myself, but it also meant that I wasn't able to do all of the things people around me wanted me to be involved in. And that's okay. That's okay. That's part of self-care. So let me give you some examples of what self-care isn't and what I've called it in the past. Self-care is not just, you know what, I want to eat the ice cream and I'm gonna eat the ice cream because I'm eating it in the name of self-care. Listen, I'm not out here to ice cream bash. I love ice cream, and ice cream every once in a while is actually probably a good form of self-care, but hear me correctly when I say sometimes we make decisions and we reach for things and we do them in the name of self-care because we say it's gonna make me feel good. Self-care is not necessarily about feeling good. I don't feel great after I talk to my therapist. In fact, sometimes I go home from therapy and I'm crying. Like I am a wreck. I need to go and just go straight to sleep. Self-care isn't about feeling good. It's about making choices that make your future self, that you can see ahead to, that make Vimbo tomorrow feel nourished, that allow Vimbo tomorrow to feel clear-headed, to feel grounded, to feel like I am making decisions not from a position of scarcity or lack, but I am making decisions about my life fully informed and fully aware, and I am present in my life. So I hope that gives a little bit of clarity to what self-care is. I am not knocking face masks and bubble baths. I'm gonna be honest with you. I do face masks when I'm with my groups of friends. I don't love face masks when I'm like by myself. If anyone has any good skincare routines, feel free to comment those below. I know I should probably care about those things. They're a fun thing for me to do with groups of friends. They're not necessarily my jam when I'm by myself. Like face masks are not necessarily my form of self-care, but they might be for you. Now a bubble bath with candles, or even just lighting candles throughout my house, or having different diffusers in my home or in my office that help it smell just relaxing, like lavender or cedar wood. That's self-care for me. It helps me focus on being mindful and focus on where I am and what I'm smelling, and it just invigorates my senses. So self-care can look like some of the things you see that are marketed as self-care, but those are aspects of self-care. Those are not the whole essence of it. Self-care as a whole, if I were to summarize it, would be making choices that make for a better tomorrow. If I don't sleep, I've seen this time and time again as an educator. If I don't sleep, if I don't eat well, and well means nourishing foods that are going to give me the fuel I need to do my tasks. So what that looks like for you, you define that. But if I don't sleep, if I don't eat well, if for me, because I'm an extreme extrovert, if I don't lean into relationship and I just isolate myself, on the other end, what happens is I get sick. Literally, physically, I get sick. I get colds every other week if I am not taking care of myself. I am short with people. I am not living a great life because everything feels like I'm being hurried from one task to another. So you think about it. I want to push you, hopefully nudge you gently, to reflect on what is making you feel good both in the moment but also into the future. So what choices are you making right now that are helping your health? That includes your mental health, that includes your physical health, that includes your entire well-being. What are you deciding right now? It's summertime for us as educators, and so maybe that looks like going to the pool every day and doing laps, or going to the pool every day and reading a book on the sidelines while your kids swim, if you have kids. Maybe that looks like waking up early so you can go on a walk before the rest of your family wakes up, and you have that time to clear your mental space and pray as you walk, or meditate, or look at nature. Maybe you get some fresh air outside. Self-care is really a combination of the choices we make to improve our health. I want to add this disclaimer. All of the information I share, as always, is just my personal opinion. Please consult your doctor and a mental health therapist or a licensed mental health professional if you have serious questions about your mental health. These are definitely good ways to start working on your mental health, but if you are facing a crisis of self-care and you are finding yourself in turmoil, absolutely reach out to a professional, get the help you need, and start from there. They will definitely have a ton of resources that can help get you focusing on prioritizing your health once again. I'm so excited I was able to dive into this topic with you. Please comment and let me know, or email hello@vimbowatson.com with any mental health tips that you have learned, or routines or patterns of behavior that help your mental health and your self-care as you are growing and learning more what works for you. I would love to hear what you have to suggest. As always, my goal is to equip you with the tools and the tips and ideas that you need to practice good, great, excellent self-care every single day. And so with that, go, be well, and take care of yourself, because you do deserve it.